Let's look at the grey areas when it comes to football groups and MCOs. Now, in certain football leagues, it is allowed for football clubs who are owned by the same owners to play and compete in the same league. Some examples include the Saudi Public Investment Fund, which own Al Hilal, Al Nasser, Al Ahly, and Al Ittihad. All of these clubs compete in the Saudi Pro League. The same goes for Mexican teams who compete in Liga MX, Pachuca and Club Leon, who are owned by Group Pachuca. But here is where things start to get a little confusing. Listen up. So in most continental and international football tournaments, clubs who are owned by the same owner can't compete in the same international or continental competition. For example, FIFA disqualified Club Leon from the 2025 Club World Cup because they share the same ownership group as Pachuca. Both teams qualified for the Club World Cup as CONCACAF participants. The EPL last season, Nottingham Forest finished 7th, which would have guaranteed them a place in the Europa League. This, of course, a team below them qualified for the Europa League through winning the FA Cup, which is exactly what happened when Crystal Palace beat Manchester City and won the FA Cup last season. So, Crystal Palace qualified for the Europa League and Nottingham Forest had to be downgraded to the Conference League. However, the executives at Nottingham became a little bit clever because they realized that Olympique Lyon also qualified for the Europa League. Now, Crystal Palace and Olympique Lyon are owned by the same owners. Nottingham lodged an appeal to UEFA, and Crystal Palace was kicked out of the Europa League, downgraded to the Conference League, and Nottingham were upgraded to the Europa League. It was a very sneaky move considering that Evangelo Marinakis, the owner of Nottingham, also owns other clubs in Europe, specifically Olympiacos. However, I know there's a lot of football nerds that may be thinking right about now, how come Red Bull Salzburg and Red Bull Leipzig are regularly allowed to compete in the Champions League or the Europa League together? And you may even think that this is potentially a double standard.
But let's go back to the article by ESPN, which will further explain these developments. So, in conclusion, basically, two clubs can't compete in the same competition if they are controlled by the same entity rather than owned.
So even though Red Bull Salzburg and Red Bull Leipzig have the same owners, they have completely different management structures. And the same goes for Manchester City and Girona, who competed in the Champions League together 2 seasons ago.
These laws and regulations have actually scared a lot of football owners who have actually changed a lot of the management structure within their footballing groups and footballing clubs. For example, Evangelo Marinakis, the owner of Nottingham Forest and Olympiacos, had to change the board of both teams because in a situation that both teams qualify for the Champions League, it could get awkward.
Thank you for watching.